Hi, welcome back to Family Secret TV. New stories ready. Watch till the end. The maitre d' looked at me like I'd just asked him to set the dining room on fire. Ma'am, he said slowly, carefully, like he was explaining something to a small child. I cannot seat you at a table that has already been reserved for a private party. I know it's reserved, I said. I'm part of the party. He glanced down at his list, then back at me, then at my jeans and cardigan. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. That's when I asked to speak to the owner. His expression shifted from condescending to concerned in about half a second. Because he didn't know what I knew. He didn't know who I was. And he definitely didn't know that my mother-in-law had just made the biggest mistake of her life. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Jessica Torres. I'm 34 years old, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had a pretty good relationship with my husband's family. I was wrong about that. Very wrong. I've been married to David for 7 years. We met in college. He was studying business. I was studying hospitality management. We fell in love over terrible dining hall pizza and late-night study sessions, and, honestly, I thought we'd figured out the whole marriage thing. We communicate. We compromise. We laugh at each other's jokes even when they're not funny. David's a good man. His mother, however, is a different story. Victoria Harrington Chin. Yes, she hyphenates. Yes, she insists you use both names. Yes, she will correct you if you forget. Victoria is 62 years old, 5'3", and has the personality of a stiletto heel. Sharp, expensive, and designed to make you feel small. She's old money. The kind of family that has a crust. And a foundation. And opinions about which fork you use for the salad course. David's father passed away when David was in college, which meant Victoria spent the last 15 years running the family real estate empire by herself. And she's very good at reminding everyone of that. When David and I got engaged, Victoria made her feelings clear. She told David, within my earshot, that he was marrying down. That I came from humble beginnings. That she hoped I wouldn't embarrass the family at important events. David defended me. Told her she was being inappropriate. She smiled sweetly and said, "Of course, darling. I'm sure Jessica will be just fine." Translation: I'm sure Jessica will fail spectacularly, and I'll be here to say I told you so. For 7 years, I've played the game. I've attended her charity galas in dresses I couldn't afford. I've smiled through her passive-aggressive comments about my career. I work in hotel management. I'm the director of operations at a boutique hotel downtown. It's a good job. I'm proud of it. But to Victoria, it's service industry work. Which, in her world, might as well be janitorial services. 3 weeks ago, Victoria called David. She wanted to organize a family dinner to celebrate her 62nd birthday. Somewhere nice. Somewhere exclusive. She'd already made the reservation at Marchand's. If you don't know Marchand's, it's one of those restaurants where the menu doesn't have prices and the waiters have better posture than ballet dancers. It's the kind of place where people propose. Where hedge fund managers celebrate mergers. Where you need a reservation 6 months in advance unless you know someone. Victoria, of course, knows everyone. The dinner was set for Saturday night. 7 o'clock. David told me about it on Monday. Mom's birthday dinner is this weekend, he said. Marchand's. The whole family will be there. Great, I said. What should I wear? He shrugged. Something nice. You know how Mom is. I did know how Mom is. Which is why I spent 3 days planning my outfit like I was preparing for battle. Friday afternoon, I was at work when David called. Hey, babe. Quick thing. Mom called. My stomach dropped. Victoria calling the day before an event was never a good sign. She wanted to let us know that the reservation is for 7 sharp. Don't be late. Okay, we won't. And, she mentioned the dress code is formal. Like, really formal. I looked down at my desk. At the notes I'd made. At the dress I'd already picked out. David. I bought a cocktail dress. Is that not formal enough? There was a pause. She said floor length would be better. Of course she did. I spent Friday evening at 3 different department stores trying to find a floor-length dress that didn't cost more than my car payment. I found one. Navy blue. Simple but elegant. It fit perfectly. I also bought new shoes because apparently my regular heels weren't formal enough. By the time I got home, I'd spent $400 I didn't really have. But it was fine. It was Victoria's birthday. I could be gracious. Saturday evening, David and I got ready together. He looked great. He always does. Dark suit, crisp white shirt, the tie I bought him for Christmas. I put on the new dress. Did my hair. Spent 45 minutes on makeup that was supposed to look natural. David kissed my cheek and said, "You look beautiful." I felt beautiful. Which should have been my first warning that something was about to go very wrong. We left the house at 6:30. Marchand's was downtown, about 25 minutes away. Traffic was light. We arrived at 6:50. 10 minutes early. Perfect. The restaurant was exactly as I remembered it. Elegant. Understated. The kind of place where even the doorman looks like he has a trust fund. We walked up to the entrance. The maitre d' greeted us with a smile that was equal parts welcoming and assessing. "Good evening. Do you have a reservation?" "Yes," David said. "Harrington party. 7 o'clock. The maitre d' checked his list. Yes. Right this way." We followed him through the dining room. And that's when I saw them. Victoria's table was in the back. Private corner. Best view in the restaurant. The table was set for 8 people. 7 of them were already seated. Victoria at the head of the table, of course. Wearing a cream-colored gown that probably cost more than my rent. David's older brother, Marcus, and his wife, Stephanie. Both in formal attire that screamed, "We have a personal stylist." David's younger sister, Claire, and her fiancé, Brandon. Claire in a silver dress that caught the light like a disco ball. And 2 people I didn't recognize. Probably friends of Victoria's. Also dressed like they were attending a state dinner. 8 chairs. 7 people. 1 empty seat. Right next to Victoria. I smiled. David and I approached the table. "Mom," David said, leaning down to kiss her cheek. "Happy birthday." Victoria's smile was warm. Genuine. "Thank you, darling." She looked at me. Her smile didn't change, but something in her eyes did. "Jessica. You came." "Of course," I said, forcing my voice to stay pleasant. "Happy birthday, Victoria." She nodded. Then she turned back to the table. "Everyone, let's order drinks, shall we?" David looked around. "Mom, there's only 1 empty seat." Victoria blinked. Like she was surprised. "Is there?" "There are 8 chairs. 9 people. Including me." Victoria looked at the table. Then at me. Then back at the table. "Oh," she said softly. "Oh dear." Her voice was so sweet. So concerned. It was the voice of a woman who had absolutely planned this. "I didn't realize you were coming, Jessica." David's face went red. "Mom, you called me on Friday to confirm." "Did I?" Victoria tilted her head. "I must have forgotten to mention the head count had changed." "Changed how?" "We added Catherine and Elliot at the last minute." She gestured to the 2 people I didn't recognize. "Old family friends. You understand." David's jaw clenched. "So where is Jessica supposed to sit?" Victoria looked genuinely distressed. "I'm so sorry, darling. The reservation is for 8. Marchand's is very strict about table sizes. I can't just add another chair." "Then we'll get a table for 2, David said. "Jessica and I will sit separately." "Don't be ridiculous," Victoria said, her voice sharpening slightly. "It's my birthday dinner. You can't sit at another table." "Then Jessica sits here, and I'll sit somewhere else." "David." Her voice was ice. "You're being dramatic. Jessica is a grown woman. I'm sure she understands that these things happen." She looked at me. "You understand, don't you, dear? Here's the thing about moments like this. You have 2 choices. You can make a scene. Call her out. Embarrass everyone at the table and prove that you're exactly as low class as she thinks you are. Or you can play the game. And I've been playing Victoria's game for 7 years. I smiled. "Of course I understand. These things happen." Victoria looked relieved. "I knew you'd be reasonable." David looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "Jess." "It's fine," I said, touching his arm. "You stay. Enjoy your mom's birthday. I'll just head home." "Don't be silly," Victoria said quickly. "You drove all the way here. At least stay for a drink at the bar." She was so generous, so thoughtful, so confident that she'd won. I walked back toward the entrance. David followed me. Jess, I'm so sorry. I had no idea she was going to do this. I know. I'm going to talk to her. This is unacceptable. I stopped, turned to face him. David, go back to the table. It's her birthday. We'll deal with this later. He looked torn. Are you sure? I'm sure. He kissed my forehead. I love you. I love you too. He walked back to the table. I watched him sit down in the empty seat next to his mother. Victoria said something that made the whole table laugh. And I turned toward the bar. Before we continue, please subscribe to Family Secret TV and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I see everything and your support means the world to me. Thank you. The bar at Marchand's is beautiful. Dark wood. Soft lighting. Bartender who looks like he could be a model for expensive watch ads. I sat down. Ordered a glass of wine. The bartender poured it with the kind of precision that suggested he took his job very seriously. Rough night? He asked. You have no idea. He smiled sympathetically and moved on to another customer. I sat there, sipping wine that probably cost $40 a glass, and thought about what had just happened. Victoria had planned this. She'd called David to confirm the dinner. She'd told me to dress formally. She'd made sure I showed up. And then she'd humiliated me in front of the entire family. All to prove a point. That I didn't belong. I was halfway through my wine when I saw him. The maitre d'. The one who'd seated David and me when we arrived. He was walking past the bar, checking on tables, doing whatever maitre d's do. I caught his eye. Excuse me. He approached with that professional smile. Yes, ma'am. How can I help you? I'd like to speak to the owner. His smile faltered. The owner? Yes. Is he available? May I ask what this is regarding? I kept my voice calm. Pleasant. It's a personal matter. He hesitated. Ma'am, Mr. Marchand is very busy this evening. I'm sure he is. But I'd still like to speak with him. Please. There was something in my tone. Something that made him reconsider. One moment. He walked away. Pulled out his phone. Made a call. 2 minutes later, a man in an impeccable suit appeared from the back hallway. Tall. Late 50s. Silver hair. The kind of presence that suggests he owns the room without saying a word. He approached the bar. Good evening. I'm Philippe Marchand. I understand you wanted to speak with me? I stood up. Extended my hand. Jessica Torres. Thank you for taking the time. He shook my hand. His grip was firm. Of course. How can I assist you? I took a breath. This is going to sound strange, I said. But I need to ask you something. Do you remember me? Philippe Marchand looked at me carefully. I'm afraid I don't. Have we met? 5 years ago. I was the assistant manager at the Sterling Hotel downtown. His expression shifted. Recognition dawning. The Sterling. Of course. You handled that situation with the wedding party. I nodded. The one where the bride's mother tried to check in 8 hours early and demanded we kick out the current guests to accommodate her. He smiled. You were remarkably diplomatic. I remember thinking you were wasted in that position. I smiled back. I'm the director of operations there now. Congratulations. Well deserved, I'm sure. He paused. But I suspect you didn't ask to speak with me just to reminisce about difficult hotel guests. No, I said. I didn't. I told him everything. About Victoria. About the dinner. About the missing chair. About 7 years of passive-aggressive comments and deliberate exclusions and being made to feel like I wasn't good enough. Philippe listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Your mother-in-law is Victoria Harrington. Yes, I know her. She's been a patron here for many years. I felt my heart sink. Of course he knew her. Of course they were friends. This was a mistake. However, he continued, his voice cooling slightly, I've also seen how she treats staff. And I don't appreciate it. He glanced toward the back corner. Toward Victoria's table. She once sent back a dish 3 times because the garnish wasn't artistic enough. The chef wanted to ban her. I convinced him not to. Professional courtesy. He looked back at me. But professional courtesy has limits. What are you asking me to do, Miss Torres? I don't know, I said honestly. I wanted someone to know what happened. I wanted it on record that I was here. That I was invited. That I'm not some crazy person trying to crash a private party. He nodded slowly. You were invited. You are part of the family. And you were excluded deliberately. Yes. That, he said quietly, is not how guests are treated in my establishment. He pulled out his phone. Made a call. Spoke in rapid French to someone on the other end. Then he hung up and looked at me. Would you like to join your family for dinner, Miss Torres? There's no chair. There will be. 3 minutes later, 2 servers appeared. They walked directly to Victoria's table carrying a 9th chair. An ornate, beautiful chair that matched the others perfectly. They placed it at the table, right between David and Claire. The entire table went silent. Victoria's face turned white. Philippe Marchand walked over to the table with me beside him. Good evening, he said, his voice warm and professional. I apologize for the confusion earlier. It seems there was a miscommunication about the party size. He gestured to the new chair. We've corrected the seating arrangement. Miss Torres will be joining you. Victoria's smile was frozen. Oh, that's very kind, but... It's no trouble at all, Philippe said smoothly. We pride ourselves on accommodating all of our guests' needs. He looked directly at her. Especially when those guests are family. The emphasis on family was subtle but unmistakable. Victoria understood. I sat down in the new chair. David squeezed my hand under the table. Philippe smiled at the table. Enjoy your evening. He walked away. The table was silent for exactly 5 seconds. Then Marcus cleared his throat. Well, that was interesting. Stephanie, his wife, looked at me with something like respect. Nice dress, Jessica. Thanks. I bought it yesterday. I looked at Victoria. She was staring at her menu like it held the secrets of the universe. Dinner was excruciating. For Victoria, anyway. For me, it was the best meal I'd had in years. Not because the food was good, though it was. But because for the first time in 7 years, I wasn't the one who felt small. Claire leaned over halfway through the main course. I can't believe Mom did that, she whispered. That was so messed up. I shrugged. These things happen. Claire snorted. No, they don't. She planned that. I know. Are you going to say something? I already did. Claire grinned. By getting the owner involved? That's legendary. Victoria barely spoke for the rest of dinner. When dessert arrived, she made a show of thanking everyone for coming. Her voice was tight, controlled. She didn't look at me once. After dinner, as we were leaving, Philippe appeared again. He walked over to me. Miss Torres. A word? We stepped aside. I wanted to give you this, he said, handing me a business card. It was his personal card. Cell phone number handwritten on the back. If you ever need a reservation, he said quietly, call me directly. Thank you. He smiled. And for what it's worth, I think your husband is a lucky man. David and I drove home in silence for the first 10 minutes. Then he said, that was the most badass thing I've ever seen. I laughed. Your mother hates me. My mother has always been intimidated by you. What? He glanced at me. You're smart. You're successful. You don't need her approval or her money. That terrifies her. I never thought about it that way. Well, start. Because after tonight, she's going to be a lot more careful. If you're still with me on this journey, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Your support means everything to me, and I promise the best part of this story is still coming. The fallout started the next morning. Victoria called David at 9 a.m. I could hear her voice through the phone. High-pitched. Frantic. How could you embarrass me like that? David put her on speaker. How did I embarrass you, Mom? You brought that owner into it. You made a scene. I didn't do anything, David said calmly. Jessica asked to speak with Philippe. He chose to help her. She shouldn't have been there in the first place. She's my wife. Of course she should have been there. I made it clear the reservation was for 8 people. No, you didn't. You called to confirm the dinner. You told me to make sure Jessica dressed formally. You knew she was coming. Silence. Then, quietly, I thought she'd have the grace to leave quietly. David's jaw clenched. You deliberately humiliated her. I was trying to teach her a lesson. About what? About her place in this family. David took a breath. Mom, I love you. But if you ever do anything like that again, Jessica and I are done. We won't come to family dinners. We won't come to holidays. You won't see your future grandchildren. Victoria gasped. You wouldn't. Try me. He hung up. Looked at me. I'm sorry. I should have done that 7 years ago. The calls started coming in after that. First from Marcus. Hey, I heard about the call with Mom. Just wanted to say, that was a long time coming. Then from Claire. Oh my God. Mom is losing her mind. She called me 3 times already. I told her she deserved it. Even Stephanie called. I never liked how she treated you. I'm glad someone finally stood up to her. 3 days later, a package arrived at our apartment. No return address. Inside was a handwritten note on Victoria's monogram stationery. Jessica, I believe I owe you an apology. My behavior at dinner was inappropriate. I allowed my personal feelings to cloud my judgment. You're David's wife, and you deserve respect. I hope we can move forward. Victoria. It wasn't much. No actual apology. No admission of wrongdoing. No acknowledgement of 7 years of passive-aggressive cruelty. But it was something. David read it and laughed. That's the closest thing to an apology you'll ever get from her. I know. Are you going to respond? I thought about it. Eventually. 2 weeks later, Victoria called again. This time, her voice was different. Softer. Jessica, I'm hosting a small luncheon next month. I was hoping you could attend. I glanced at David. He was watching me carefully. What's the occasion? A charity board meeting. Very casual. Just 8 or 9 people. Will there be enough chairs? There was a pause. Then, quietly, yes. There will be enough chairs. Then I'll be there. The luncheon was at Victoria's house. Massive estate. Perfectly manicured lawn. The kind of place that has a formal living room and a casual living room. When David and I arrived, Victoria greeted us at the door. She looked at me, extended her hand. Jessica, thank you for coming. I shook her hand. Thank you for inviting me. We stood there for a moment. 2 women who had spent 7 years circling each other like fighters in a ring. Finally, Victoria said, I spoke with Philippe last week. Oh? He told me you used to work in hospitality. That you were quite talented. I am quite talented. She smiled. A real smile this time. He also told me that you handled the situation at the restaurant with remarkable grace. I wasn't sure I had a choice. You did, Victoria said. You could have made a scene. You could have embarrassed David and the entire family. She paused. But you didn't. You asked for help from someone who could provide it. That takes intelligence. And patience. She looked at me carefully. You're more like me than I thought. I don't know if that's a compliment. It is. The luncheon was fine. Victoria introduced me to her friends as my daughter-in-law Jessica. She's in hotel management. Not service industry. Not humble beginnings. Just hotel management. It was progress. After the luncheon, as David and I were leaving, Victoria pulled me aside. I wanted to give you something. She handed me a small envelope. Inside was a check. For $400. The exact amount I'd spent on the dress and shoes for her birthday dinner. I looked at her. You don't have to do this. I know, she said. But I want to. She hesitated. Then, quietly, I was cruel to you at that dinner. I wanted to prove that you didn't belong. But all I proved was that I was petty. She looked me in the eye. Your family, Jessica. I should have treated you that way from the beginning. It wasn't a perfect apology. It wasn't even close. But it was real. And for Victoria Harrington, that was everything. 6 months later, David and I hosted Thanksgiving at our apartment. It's small. It's cramped. The kitchen barely fits 2 people. But we invited the whole family. Victoria arrived with wine and flowers. She complimented my cooking. She helped with the dishes. She even laughed at one of my jokes. It was strange. But it was nice. That night, after everyone had left, David and I were cleaning up. He looked at me and said, I'm proud of you. For what? For handling my mother. For standing up for yourself. For being patient when I would have lost my mind. I shrugged. I work in hospitality. Dealing with difficult people is literally my job. He laughed. Well, you're very good at it. I know. Here's what I learned from all of this. Sometimes people test you because they're afraid of you. Sometimes cruelty is just fear in disguise. And sometimes the best revenge isn't making a scene. It's asking for the owner. Victoria and I will never be best friends. We'll never have that warm, fuzzy mother-daughter-in-law relationship you see in movies. But we have respect. And in a family like the Harrington Chens, respect is worth more than gold. I still have Philippe Marchand's business card. I've never used it. But I keep it in my wallet. Just in case. Because you never know when you might need a reservation. Or a reminder that you belong at the table. David asked me once if I regretted how I handled things that night. If I wished I'd made a bigger scene. Told Victoria off in front of everyone. I thought about it. Then I said no. Because the best victories aren't loud. They're the ones where your opponent realizes they underestimated you. And they never make that mistake again. Thank you so much for watching Family Secret TV. More of my most gripping stories are already on your screen. Click one now and don't miss the best part. You will love it.